Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing this evening? Oh my gosh, it is so cold outside, you guys. I am leaving Tanya Jean's kennel. It is currently, hold on, I don't know, 10:39 p.m. And I was just hanging out with Tanya Jean a little bit while she was finishing up her nightly duties, and saw Eric as he was leaving. And it is currently, oh my gosh, it is 27 degrees outside. It is so cold. We were just talking about how we are probably days, weeks away from there being snow outside. And I'm ready for it. I'm ready for the snow. So what did you do today, Peter, you might ask? This bottle of water over. I have a bottle of water that I got from my mother-in-law's house because I had to go out there. And then I also have a cup of coffee. I may have also ordered a bunch more K-Cups tonight. I'm like going through these Christmas K-Cups so fast. And I am really enjoying just making cups of coffee throughout the day. And I have like, I'm like saving so much money by just making money at home that I really, really like the using the Keurig at home. So I got online and I ordered some more K-Cups, Christmas flavors to try. But those will be flavors that I'll still like to use during the winter as well. And so that'll be fun because they're like all different. They're like gingerbread and stuff like that. I also bought, I got them on Amazon. I also bought a Keurig, I don't think it's Keurig brand, I don't know what brand it is, but like a Keurig K-Cup advent calendar where you get to try a different cup of coffee for the 12 days of Christmas. And I'm really excited about that. So I ordered some of those tonight. I got on Amazon to look for the K-Cups, but I also got on Amazon to look for a bow for our mailbox. I can't find one anywhere. I couldn't find them at Meijer. I didn't see them at Menards. I don't know if I really looked at Menards. So, yeah. I had planned to go and buy some more pillows and stuff for our bed for Christmas. But I'm like, you know what? I just think I'm not going to spend the money. And Alex has been making the bed so nice every day this weekend that I'm like, you know what? It looks nice enough. And he bought these red tartan plaid curtains that will add to the room as well. And then when the Christmas tree comes, it'll be enough. It'll look fine, you know? So I don't think that I'm going to buy any more pillows unless I see something that's like super, super cheap and I want to add it to, my mother-in-law, actually, she has this really long pillow that says like Mary, Mary, Mary on it, and it says some other things. It's really nice, and she got it from, I think either Marshall's or TJ Maxx Home, but I just like TJ Maxx Home and Marshall's is always so, so busy that I don't really want to go there unless I absolutely have to. What did you do today? What did you do today, you might ask? Well, I slept in because of the blackout curtains, which are so fantastic that just really, really helped me sleep. But I couldn't fall asleep last night to save my life. I just kept on tossing and turning. And so I finally got up and I went downstairs and I made myself some treats. I had this pub cheese that I had bought for Alex's mom's house and these pretzel crackers that I like. They're just like those like thin pretzels, you know? And then I had some little squares of Gouda cheese and then my pretzel and peanut butter things. And so, yeah, I made like a little smorgasbord of that last night. And then this morning, early this morning. I mean, I laid in bed forever, tossing and turning. So that was at like 7 o'clock, and then I went to bed at like 8. I watched an entire episode of RuPaul's Drag Race Canada. RuPaul's Canada, RuPaul's Drag Race Canada. I watched an entire episode. I'm totally caught up on that show now. And ate that, and then I went back to bed, and finally then was able to fall asleep. But I couldn't, it took me forever to fall asleep, I couldn't. And then we got up and we went to brunch today. This omelet that I got the other day, we went Black Friday shopping, I got it again today at Pas de Choux. And it's the omelet you can't refuse, which is, I talked about this one here, I know. Bacon and white cheddar and potatoes and sour cream, but I have the bacon taken out of it. And then I've been, last time and this time, so on Friday, Black Friday shopping breakfast, I added herbal cream cheese, or herb cream cheese, or herbal cream cheese, I don't know, and horseradish, and it is so good, you guys. It's like one of the best omelets I've ever had in my entire life. So I have that, crispy potatoes, and an everything bagel toasted with cream cheese. And actually, you know what? The everything bagel, the one half of it with cream cheese on it, and the potatoes are still in the back of my car, which I'm sure they're fine because it's been so cold today. It's now 28 degrees. But we went to brunch and then came home. We got home about 3:30, something like that. And I had wanted to make all these videos today. I had this like plan to make all these. I was actually going to make 2 videos on my drama channel. We were going to do a couples Q&A, and then we were going to do, and then I was going to do this drama video. I had videos for all of my channels that I was going to make today. I think I said last night I didn't really know like what my motivation was going to be today, but I was so tired. I don't know if it's just because I didn't sleep that well last night or what. I just like, I was so tired. And so I sat down on the computer. I had started like, well, before we left to go to brunch, I started like uploading the memory card for the vlog. And so after brunch, like I rendered it on iMovie, and then I waited to upload it, so I started uploading it. And then I was like, by that point it was like 4:30. It was like 4 o'clock, and Alex was upstairs and he was like back in bed already, like playing his game on his phone. And I said, I think I'm gonna lay down for like an hour and a half. So I was gonna lay down till 5:30 and then get up, and I was gonna make 1 drama video and a Peterisms video. Oh, I also found something that I want to review. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the restaurant Jaggers. It's like a fast food restaurant. We had one, well, we still have one in Noblesville up here. And Tanya and I went to it one time because she said they had the best chicken fingers in the world. So this must have been before I was a vegetarian years ago. So 4 years ago we went there, and I loved it. This place called Jaggers. Well, they built one real close to our house. And so when we were passing it today, I was like, oh my God, it's finally open. And they have a sign out front that says peppermint shake. So I think I'm going to review the peppermint shake at Jaggers, and I might do that tomorrow, but I was going to do that today. And then the drama and the Peterisms video. But I woke up at 5:30 and I was still so tired. And I was like, I think I'm just going to continue to relax today. And when we were at brunch, I realized, like I was going through my bag looking for my reading glasses to take inside, and I left them at Alex's mom's house last night. Alex was like, don't you have like 5 pairs of reading glasses? I said, I do, but this pair is, oh my God, where are they? Did I not bring them? Oh, I was like, did I go all the way to Alex's mom's house and then like not bring the reading glasses? But here they are right here. So anyway, I texted her and I was like, because he was like, just text her to see if she found them. So I texted her and she found them. They were on like the table by the couch. And I looked at them last night and I was like, put those in your bag now or you'll forget them. And I don't even know why I had them out. I was like looking at something on my phone or something. But anyway, so I texted her and she said she found them, and I said I would come later and get them. So I slept until about, well, Alex and I both slept until like 7:30. And I woke up because he was taking the dogs outside, and he had fed them earlier. He fed them like as soon as we got home, and they were so sweet all day today. They just like cuddled with us in bed and stuff. And so I woke up and I was like, okay, if I'm gonna go out there and get my reading glasses, she goes to bed pretty early, so I was like, I need to go and get them soon. So I texted her and I was like, hey, I don't want to wake you up or whatever, but if you're like, and she's like, oh, I'm just sitting here watching a movie. She's like, come out whenever you want. So I was like, okay. So I got on the computer and did some stuff. That's when I ordered the K-cups and was looking for the bow for the mailbox, of which I didn't find. And so then I left there at left the house at like 8:30, something like that. Got out there and stayed and talked with her for like an hour. Got my glasses. And then, that's where I got my bottle of water. Just gave me a bottle of water while I was there. And then called Tanya on, because I hadn't seen Tanya for a couple days. Between Thanksgiving and her working, she's been so busy. And so she was like, well, I'm at the kennel, stop by. And I said, okay. So I stopped by the kennel and helped. She was folding towels and stuff, and I talked to her for a little bit. And then, we just kind of like sat around and talked and whatever. Just caught up. It was nice. And then tomorrow night, our Monday night group, my Monday night literature group that we used to do, is resuming tomorrow night. So we're starting it back up again with where we left off with Drop the Rock. And that's at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. And then Tuesday night, I have my home group. And it just kind of occurred to me the other day, Tanya, I think it was when we were at the meeting last week, she was like, you have a birthday coming up, don't you? And I was like, yeah, I do. It seems so weird to me. But anyway, that was my day. Listened to a little bit of my audiobook. I want to finish the audiobook by December 1st, and so I'm going to really have to push through. That means like 2 hours a day I'm going to have to listen to it. I have all kinds of stuff I have to do tomorrow, so I cannot stay up super late tonight. Which is why I'm vlogging a little bit earlier, and then I can listen to it on my audiobook. But yeah, I can't stay up super late tonight. I need to get a good night's sleep. I really thought that I would kind of like tear into the rest of that pie cake in through the weekend, and I only one day had a little bit of it. I haven't really been craving sweets that much, which is kind of crazy for me. But anyway, good day. It was a good day. Yeah, it's always weird this time, like between Thanksgiving and, well, really November, but Thanksgiving is kind of like, it feels like the start date of me like counting down to my sobriety birthday. I mean, even though it's been 27 years since that last final month, it still is so vivid to me. Well, parts of it are vivid, of like how bad that month was. I mean, it just was really, really bad. That was like the heaviest of my using. That was the heaviest of my drinking. I wasn't even really like interacting a whole lot with anybody. I don't think I saw my family really like that whole month. I mean, I'm sure I did, but I mean, it wasn't like I was hanging out or doing stuff with my family. My mom was like at a really bad point because she was selling my childhood, well, she had sold my childhood home. And so, or was it for, I think it was still for sale when she moved out. Yeah, it was still for sale when she moved out. But she had bought the condo that we live in now. And so she was moving out right around Christmas. And she didn't go to my aunt's house for Christmas that year. I remember her saying that. She just sat in the house and she drank. She told me this later, and just like, you know, packed boxes and went through stuff to move. And she didn't want to leave that. She didn't want to stay. She would always say, I was like in this between place where like I didn't want to move, but I didn't want to stay either. And like she was really depressed. And like that was like the heaviest of her drinking too. And, you know, I'm in treatment over Christmas, and my mom's at home drinking and boxing stuff up. Which is kind of crazy to me in retrospect that my mom was like drinking so heavy while I was in treatment. But I just think she was in such a depressed state that I think she was scared. You know, my mom was just scared of change, scared of anything new. I think like that house was all she had known for 20 years or something, you know, not 20 years, but close to it. We moved in there when I was 5. And she moved out when I was 22 and a half, so whatever that is. But I think she was scared of moving out of that house, and I think going somewhere new, which was so funny because then when she got, I mean, not funny, but interesting funny, but when she got into the condo, like it was like a month later, she felt so safe. Like I can remember that summer, she was so happy. She was like, I just love my little place. And she's like, you know, I've got this little yard back here and this deck. And she had like this round glass table out on the back patio. And like when I would come over there, we would eat dinner, like, you know, on the patio and with a little candle. And she just really loved that neighborhood. She didn't necessarily love all of her neighbors, but she loved that neighborhood, and she would walk around there and go swimming, and I think she felt really, really safe there. And I don't even think she realized how unsafe or fearful she was, how unsafe or fearful she felt in the house until she moved into that condo. And then I think she realized, like, because later she would refer to it, she'd say that monstrosity of a house that I lived in, that huge house all by myself, you know. But anyway, that last month, so that's what was going on with my mom during that time. But that last month, from like Thanksgiving to the 17th when I got sober, was like such a dark time for me. And I remember like literally getting up. So I was like a Jack Daniels drinker. I was like a really heavy Jack Daniels drinker. I don't even know how I afforded it at the end. But I would drink anything. I would get cases of beer every day. I loved malt liquor, like Colt 45 and Old English. And it was cheap. And I can remember going to the liquor store and buying like 4 of them, 2 for that day and 2 for the next day. So I always had like, you know, 2 to start my day out with. But I can just remember like waking up, and it's so weird because I'm so like a clean freak now, you know. And I was before then too. Like I took such pride in like vacuuming and all of that kind of stuff, you know, and having my place look clean. I mean, there was always some level of, like, if people were going to come over, like I wanted it to look nice and, you know, whatever. But I can remember like waking up and just like not really remember. I mean, this is kind of scary in retrospect because I must have been smoking in bed and stuff like that. But I can remember like waking up and like I have this big ashtray, and it just like being like flipped over on the bed, and it's just like the sheets were just covered with like cigarette butts and ashes, and just like there'd be like a bottle of Jack Daniels like empty on the floor next to me, or like beer cans. Like, I'm not making this up. Like literally I was sleeping like in beer cans, like kicking them off the sheet when I would get up. And it was so bad. I shook so bad in the mornings. Well, I mean, it was probably 1 or 2 in the afternoon when I got up, but I shook so bad. You know, I had DTs, delirium tremens, so bad from the alcohol, like, leaving my system, that, like, I shook so bad that I had to drink to just, you know, jokingly they call it the hair of the dog that bit you, but, like, I literally had to drink to like stop shaking and to function. And I can remember some days were so bad, I would feel like sick to my stomach. I had done this like years before, but I did this towards the end too. Those Christmas lights are so pretty. That I sometimes like would mix vodka with Pepto-Bismol and just shoot it. And because it would like coat my stomach, but it would also like, because sometimes like I literally could not drink alcohol because it just like the smell of it and stuff, even though, I mean, I was an alcoholic and I, you know, all that, loved to drink and needed to drink physically, like to drink would like almost immediately make me vomit. And so just to get past that, I would like mix it with Pepto-Bismol. I don't know how I learned that or whatever. It was just, it's crazy when I think back on that. I mean, that's probably where I was like having some like real, starting to beginning to have some like organ issues. But yeah, like I would get up, you know, and do that, and I can see myself standing there in the kitchen just like drinking whatever I had. I mean, I didn't really care as long as it would, I mean, if I had liquor, I would usually do that first, but then I would like go, because it would like get into my system quicker, but then I would, you know, I would go immediately to like to a 40 because I really liked those. And then, something about having like an ice cold 40 when I woke up. And then I would take like 2 Vicodin. And then I would take like, when I finally pulled it together, I would go take a shower. I love to drink in the shower too, which is so weird in retrospect. Like with plastic liquor bottles or like beer bottles or whatever, 40s. I love to just like drink in the shower with like the hot water going all over me. And then I would get out and I would like do my hair. And I mean, you know, it just like took me this whole day to like get ready. And then by that point, you know, like all my friends had been, I guess I was going out quite a bit because it would take me, I mean, that's really all my life was going out, I guess, at the end. But like, as far as doing stuff, like I wasn't obviously working and I wasn't, going to school anymore. I had completely withdrawn from all of my classes. And at one point, it was around Thanksgiving, it was, I think before that, one of my, I'm not sure though, but one of my friends, one of my really, really good friends, we had been in this writing class together, and she looked at me, and I literally would get dressed and go down to the campus at IUPUI, and I would sit outside and like smoke with people that I knew and whatever, and just like talk. And one day she looked at me and she was like, and I would carry a backpack and everything as if like I was going to school. And she looked at me and she goes, "What are you doing here?" And I go, "What?" And she was like, "What are you doing here?" And I go, "What do you mean?" And she goes, you are not in classes anymore." And it just like was the weirdest thing. Like, I don't know, like I had been found out or something, but like I was even kind of like lying to myself. It just was bizarre. So after that, I didn't feel the need to put up with the charade anymore. So I just didn't. So with my friends that were in school or were working, you know, we would go out on the weekends, but not like, we would go out like pretty much like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Most of those days. But I would wait until they, you know, were done, and then I would go down there, and by the time that I got down to their house, like I had been drinking and using so much that like it took me that much just to appear normal to people. And then they thought I was sober, you know, and that I was just starting with them, which, God, I look back on that and that is so scary that it took all of that, you know. And I mean, and that wasn't all I was using. I was using all kinds of stuff, you know, and that it took me that far, that much using to get to the point where I seemed normal like everybody else. I remember my counselor in treatment, she said to me something about trying to kill myself, and I said, "No, I never felt that way." And she said, "Well, what were you doing? You were slowly killing yourself through what you were using." And I was like, God, I never thought of it that way. So, but that was like my life. It was bad. And then what would happen is, you know, so I would be at their house, and then we would like pre-drink and stuff, and then we would go out, you know, 11ish, whatever, and then by like 12:30 or 1 o'clock in the morning, I was in a blackout, and half the time my friends didn't even know it, you know, because I had literally been drinking all day long and had never gotten the alcohol out of my system from the day before. So I just was continuing and continuing and continuing to drink, like really nonstop. I just look back on that and I think, anytime that I ever would question, you know, in the last 26 years and 11 months that, well, maybe I'm not an alcoholic, like I think of that and I think, nobody drinks, like no normal person drinks that way, you know? It's like Tanya and I were talking about this the other day. It's like, you know, you get to a point where you've been sober for so long. I can never tell on this turn here, like how close the car is. Because like the lights seem like they're farther away than they are. But anyway, Tanya and I were talking about this the other day about, like, you know, the longer you've been sober, you don't really know, like, you think to yourself sometimes, well, maybe I'm not an alcoholic, right? Like, maybe I could have a beer, or, you know, maybe I could, you know, I don't really like crave hardcore liquor anymore. It's interesting. Like, well, I never really crave, like, God, I gotta have it. But people ask me this a lot. They're like, do you think about drinking today? I only like romance, like the idea of like, it would be fun to have like a beer on a beach, right? Or have a glass of wine, you know, with my husband in the summer, or, you know, something like that. Or maybe like the hard liquor stuff is like if we're out somewhere and they have like fun, like mixed drinks, or you're at like some, you know, like Oak Bar and whatever, and it's like, you know, hotel lobby kind of thing. Like, we met up with our friends at Ironworks, and like they served those drinks in like those copper cups and stuff. It's stuff like that, you know. I mean, that alcoholic romance in my head, I think, will always be there. But as far as like getting wasted drunk, like I don't think that way. Like that doesn't sound desirable to me anymore, because right away what I think is you'll lose everything that you have. But what's interesting is I can say that through the years, I have questioned quite a few times, well, maybe you're not an alcoholic. You know, the tape in my head that runs is a lot shorter today than it used to be. But I have thought that before, like, well, maybe you're not an alcoholic. And Tanya and I were talking about that. And she said, don't you think that's normal for most alcoholics, that we all think that, you know, maybe I'm not an alcoholic? And I said, but here's the thing, like, what normal person would think, like, well, maybe I could have a beer on the beach, you know, or whatever. Like, who would think that a beer on the beach was more important than everything that you have gained as a result of being sober? Like, normal people don't think that way, right? Like, normal people wouldn't think like, oh yeah, I'm willing to throw away my entire life over the fact that I might be able to have a beer on the beach, right? But the reality is this, is if I'm honest with myself and I sit there and I say, like, I don't want to get wasted drunk anymore, the truth is that that one beer, if I really played that out of what is desirable to me, it's like, no, I don't want to be wasted drunk, but it is definitely the feeling. I mean, I don't know that I ever really wanted to be wasted drunk. I wanted that buzz that I couldn't control, because I could only control it for about 30 minutes, and then it was too far, because I never knew where to stop with that buzz, right? And that's the thing, like, if I could, I wouldn't be sitting here today as a recovering person. I wouldn't, because that wouldn't be my truth, you know, because then I could control my drinking, and that's it, is I can't control my drinking. And that, you know, one is too many and 1,000 is never enough. And that once that sip of alcohol is in my mouth, it's like off to the races. It's like, okay, well, what you really want is that buzz, that feeling, you know? And I've said this a lot in videos before. There are so many things that have come out, so many kinds of alcohol, but on top of that, pills and all kinds of other stuff that has come out since I have gotten sober that terrifies me, but also the addict side of me intrigues me when I've heard other people tell stories of it, that I'm like, I just don't know that I would care enough about myself to like, that was part of what went along with my active addiction, was I just didn't care about myself, right? I wasn't trying to take my life, but I didn't really care if I lived or died. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's how I felt. Like, if I didn't wake up, I didn't wake up. It was like, whatever, you know? And, which is just like so detached from any kind of reality, it's just kind of really super scary, you know? And whenever I say super like that, I always think of this coworker of mine that I used to work with. I've told this story so many times, but she called one night to order food for it stopped. Anyway, if you've never heard this story before, it's silly, but if you have heard it, just bear with me. So she called, I think they were doing like steaks carry out or something like that. And so the woman on the phone, when she was like ordering it, said, do you want a super salad with that? And she thought that the woman meant like a supersized salad. And she goes, yeah, sure. And she goes, okay, which one? And she goes, what do you mean? And she goes, do you want a super salad with that? And she goes, I said yes, or something like that. And she goes, well, which one? And she goes, I don't get it. I don't get it. And the woman on the phone was like, would you like a soup or a salad? And she goes, oh, okay. I always think of that whenever I say super. But anyway, what was I saying? I lost my train of thought. Yeah, like, I mean, I just think, like, I really had no emotional attachment to anything or anyone in the world, and I was just so selfish and self-centered, and all I cared about was just not feeling. Like, that was ultimately the feeling, right? Was that I just wanted to be numb and not feel, or I wanted some exaggerated experience of something, right? Like, alcohol would, like, enhance every experience, or, you know, drugs would enhance every experience that I had. So I either wanted drugs and alcohol to make me feel something or not make me feel something. I know it sounds crazy, but that's exactly what it was. And, oh, look at this. They have this big blow-up snowman there. Aww. That's that goofy looking snowman. I don't know what his name is. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? That goofy snowman with the carrot nose? I can't think of his name. Not Frosty, but the goofy one. So anyway, yeah, I just don't think that normal people, you know, think like, oh, like, I'm willing to risk everything for a glass of wine. I just don't think normal people think that way. I know normal people don't think that way. And I think alcoholics think that we think it's going to be different. We think, oh, well, this time it's going to be different. Like, I can't tell you how many times I convinced myself that it was going to be different, you know, that it wasn't going to be the same, that it was going to be, I don't know, just something different. Somehow I was going to control it that time, somehow, you know, and if not, then I didn't care, and I'd say I'll start tomorrow, you know. I can't tell you how many times I tried to stop using on my own. I remember taking that test that was like 10 questions or something, and it was like, I like took this test and I literally answered like yes to every single answer. You can find it online. It's like, the test is called like, am I an alcoholic or something? And I remember taking it. It was in some like waiting area of like treatment program or something. And I truly at that point was like not convinced that I was an alcoholic or an addict. And I can remember taking that test and it was like 10 questions and I answered yes to like 8 or 9 of them. And I thought, and I can remember thinking to myself, well, see, I didn't answer all of them. Like, that's not bad. And it said, if you answer 2 or more of these, you might have a problem with alcohol. And I was like, 2 or more? What? I thought I was doing pretty good at 8. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't answer all of them. But I don't know what a gift recovery has been, you know? I look back on, it's always hard for me this period because it's kind of like a mix between a very spiritual period of my life, like especially driving around late at night, it's like cold outside. It reminds me, you know, of that period, like of right before I went into treatment, of what my life was like. And, but at the same time, it reminds me of like immediately afterwards too, of being very clear and cold but clear-headed as well, you know? And like for the first time since I was 12 years old, really, like I hated being in treatment, but at the same time, I loved being in treatment because I felt so incredibly safe. You know, I felt like, now that sounds like my other tire that's squealing, or a brake. Thank God I'm getting them fixed this week. just remember being in treatment and feeling like so safe. I mean, not at first, but as far as drinking and using, I felt really safe. You know, 30 plus days doesn't sound like a super long period of time for me now, but when I look back on it then, like, it really was. I think it doesn't make me, I still look back on that and it makes me kind of like, I think it's good that I remember some of it, you know, because I don't want to go back to that. But I also don't want to sit in it and remember it forever, you know. But at the same time, it makes me extremely grateful for the life that I have today, you know. It's almost like, it's so weird. I can't even like imagine myself as like a drinking person. Like, it's so weird that I was such a drinker. Like, I can't even think of myself as like a drinking person. It just is bizarre to me, you know, that like I would just like pop open a beer and drink it or something. Like, I don't know. You know, they say that we'll recoil from alcohol like a hand to a hot stove, and I mean, I think it's true. I definitely feel that way. I'm not scared of it. Like, that's the other thing. It's like, I think in early sobriety, like, I was scared of it. Like, being around it or whatever. I'm not scared of it. Alcohol doesn't have any power over me today unless I take that first sip. But like I said, once I take that first sip, I'm screwed. Like, I know that, you know? And I think that, but I do think in early sobriety, like, you know, I get so many questions. Like, it was interesting because Alex, like, and I on this Q&A that we were gonna do, or we're gonna do it. We'll probably do it next weekend, but he's just like busy with work and stuff this week. So maybe next weekend we'll do it. Oh, I have the book club next Sunday. Well, maybe Saturday we'll do it. Well, I saved the questions. I took screenshots of them, so we still have all the questions. But, you know, I always get, whenever I do like a Q&A with Alex, like, I always get so many questions that are like, is it hard for you to be with somebody that drinks? Like, or, you know, like, is it difficult? Or do you feel yourself like wanting to drink and whatever? And I think it's interesting that I get that question so much. I don't think it's interesting that I get the question. I think it's interesting that I get it as much as I do. And I think that this is important to talk about the difference between, I don't even know if it's so much early sobriety versus late sobriety, because I'm not a big believer that time past a couple years has, I do think being an old timer in sobriety, and that's 20 plus years. Some people say it's 25, but anyway, I was always raised that it was 20 plus years, but I guess some people believe that it's 25. But being an old timer in sobriety and being early in sobriety, there are a lot of differences. Okay, I could not have been around. I don't know that I could have been in a relationship with somebody when I first started dating that drank. And I did, and that was the thing. Like, you know, when I talk about the guy that I first started dating when I first got out of treatment, but like, I wasn't living with him. I think it would have been different if that were the case. Plus, he was also very much like, I don't know, that relationship was just, I just wanted somebody to like me. But he lived in a different city, and so, I mean, I only maybe saw him like one day a week, maybe two, you know, and when we were together, he didn't necessarily drink. So I don't know that I was even that conscious of it, if that makes sense. The next guy that I dated who passed away, Todd, he didn't drink, but he smoked pot a lot. And it bothered me because, not so much of like the pot smoking itself, like I don't know that I was, like, I would have even been conscious of it, except for that, like, he'd go with his friends and smoke pot and show up, like, 2 hours late, and it used to just really upset me. Or, like, he showed up a couple times high, and I could just tell, and I didn't like it. I thought, why do you need to do that, you know? But it didn't make me, like, crave drinking. It didn't make me, like, want to drink or want to smoke pot. I don't know why. I don't know if that's because I was just, like, so into going to so many meetings and whatever. I just, like, but I definitely couldn't be around people partying, like, you know, and, like, getting drunk and all that kind of stuff. I definitely couldn't have been around that for probably my first 2 years. And, I mean, was I? There were a few times that I was. I didn't feel comfortable, you know. But I always had safety plans in place too, which I think was really important. And that was one of the early things that I was taught. And that was more, I was taught that in treatment, not so much in, because those first 2 years I was in an aftercare program and counseling and working with a sponsor and going to meetings. And so, you know, people would say, like, if you go somewhere, always take somebody sober with you, or, you know, call somebody sober before you go and then call them as soon as you leave, which I would do all of that, you know. And, plus, one of my, like, my roommate at the time, she was one of my biggest drinking partners, but then when she moved back here, because she lived in Kansas for a while, when she moved back here, and then my first really long-term boyfriend and I, we got an apartment together, not until the very end did she drink, and she would only, I mean, she was really supportive of me, and she would only drink in her room at the end. And then my other friend, who, the guy that I dated, and went on one date, and then we decided that we would be much better friends. I mean, he was like one of my best friends at that time. He, like, really wouldn't drink at all when we went out. So, like, that and I didn't start going out until probably, I don't know, like a year and a half or so. I don't even know when, but, like, we didn't. Well, he moved back here to go to medical school, so it would have been when that happened. So I think that was at, like, a year of mine sober. And he really, he wouldn't drink, like, when we went out. Or if he did, he'd have, like, a drink. And then I had a very, very dear friend of mine, the one that called me in treatment on New Year's Eve, and I was like, you do real, and she was drunk, and she got sober, and her sobriety date was the first. So I can remember us going to a couple places later, social, together. Like, we would go to bands and stuff like that together, but that was more, like, that still was also, like, 2 to 3 years sober, I would say. And then I think, like, you know, around years 4 or 5, like, when you're doing the deal and stuff like that, and working the program, I don't know that I think, like, there's a whole, like, if you're doing that, I don't know that there's a whole lot of difference between then and 20-something. I mean, it's, you know, you just kind of keep on doing the same thing. I think it gets easier over some time. You know, the thing is that today, my life has really nothing to do with alcohol at all, and hasn't for quite some time, you know, or drugs. And so, like, I don't think about, like, getting wasted drunk. Like, a glass of wine doesn't make me want to drink whatsoever. I mean, do I have thoughts to myself where it's like, you know, I wish I could have a glass of wine with my husband? Sure, we process that in counseling. Or a beer on the beach would be nice. Yeah, I've had those thoughts, but I don't think about, like, drinking the way that I did. It's different. I don't even know how to explain it. Whereas, like, in the past, I was, like, driven to drink. Like, I don't ever have, like, cravings like that anymore, where I can, like I'm thirsting over it, you know? I don't even know the last time that I've had that. You know, but do I walk through a store and I'll see something and think, oh, that looks kind of fun, or that looks good, you know? Sure, you know? But I don't feel like how I felt before, where, like, I had to have it. I don't even know how to explain it. I've got so many different thoughts about it. I think that we need to get our humidifier out because my skin is itching, and I think our house is really, really dry right now from the cold. Oh, it's 25 degrees now. I do wish one thing. I wish I had kept a journal every single day of my life from sobriety through now, so that I could go back and really see how I felt at those times, because I think perspective is different, you know, when you're, you know, hindsight's 20/20. I think it's interesting when you look back on things and how you really felt at the time. It's like I have this perception of how I felt, and I wonder if it was different sometimes, you know, like, I mean, I do remember my first year being like, I can't be around alcohol. Like, I just remember, oh, a shooting star. I just remember, like, you know, all of the slogans and the mantras of recovery, you know, that if you hang around a barbershop long enough, you're going to get your hair cut. Like, that really sunk in with me. Like, and a barbershop was like bars. My friends' houses were partying was going on. I mean, I gave up all my friends, you guys, when I got sober, all of them. All of my partying friends. I didn't see them anymore. And I really thought, this is how arrogant and self-centered I was. I really thought that they would be like so put out that I couldn't hang out with them anymore, you know? Like, my counselor had me call a couple of them in treatment. You know, and I just would say, you know, I just want you to know that, like, I can't hang out with you anymore if you're going to continue to use and whatever. And I thought, you know, they would be like, oh no, like, I still want to see you. Nobody was really that. I mean, a few of my friends, like, I stayed in contact with and were supportive of me. But most of the people that I knew, like, our relationships kind of evaporated pretty quickly. I think they weren't deep relationships to start with that I wasn't aware of, because I was so ate up with that going out scene that I thought those people were really diehard friends, of which maybe 2 of them were, or 3. 2, I think, you know, definitely. But other than that, like, maybe 2 or 3. And those friendships even kind of faded as I got more into sober life, and they kind of went on with their lives. Not because they were into all of it, but I do remember, like, later talking to a friend of mine, and I'm like, I just don't understand why I never see these people anymore. And they were like, and we were like, it had been like 5 years or something, and I'm like, this was one of my very, very dear friends. This is one of the guys that came to visit me in treatment on Christmas Day. And I remember I said to him, like, I don't understand why I never hear from these people. Like, I, you know, reached out to him or whatever, and he goes, Peter, they're still using, like, heavily using. You know, like, not just drinking, but, like, heavily using drugs and stuff. And he was like, I mean, your life isn't about that anymore. He was like, don't you think they don't want to impose that upon you? And, like, I had really never thought of it that way. I just thought they didn't care, you know? So the not hanging around the barbershop long, if you hang around a barbershop long enough, you're going to get your hair cut, meaning that if you keep on going around that, sooner or later you're going to use, which I think the reason why I really, really listened to it that time, because I had heard that treatment, number one, but I think the reason why I really did that the last time was because I had hung around the barbershop so many times before. If I told you guys some stories of situations that I put myself in earlier, I mean, I can remember going over to my one friend's apartment, and they would sit in a circle drinking beer and smoking a joint and passing a joint around. This is when, you know, people smoke joints. Passing a joint around. And I would just sit in a circle, and I literally would pass it to the next person. And I'm in an outpatient program. And I can remember being like, what am I doing? Well, that eventually led to me being like, I could probably drink Thursday, Friday, Saturday, not drink on Sunday, run 3 to 5 miles outside and get all that stuff out of my system, and then I could pass a drug screen on Monday, which I did. I was so thin. My metabolism was so fast back then, and I would only drink. I wouldn't use anything else. That was like during an outpatient program when I was probably like 18 or 19. All those tricks that everybody tries, you know, that eventually catch up with you, because it's really not about the tricks. It's about the fact that you have an addiction and you got to deal with the addiction. Sooner or later, you got to deal with the addiction, you know? And so But I tried all that, and I can remember, you know, like, going to a friend's house, and her dad had a cabin in southern Indiana. We went to it one weekend, and they were playing a drinking game, and she was like, do you want to play and just drink Coke? And I was like, yeah, sure. Do you know how fun drinking games are when you just drink soda? They're not. And if you have, and you have convinced yourself it's fun, that's a lie. Maybe you're not an alcoholic, I don't know. They're not fun. I mean, the point of a drinking game is to get drunk. So, but I can remember playing this game, and about like 2 rounds in, I was like, I could probably have a beer. I'm like, you know, if I just drank here and I just had a beer, I feel like I was in an outpatient program then too. There was like one other gay guy there that weekend too. I feel like that was maybe when she was in college. It was maybe her first year, I don't know. There was like one other gay guy there, and I didn't know. This is such a bad story. I don't think I've ever shared this on here before. But anyway, there was like 8 people at this cabin, this 3-bedroom cabin, and oh my God, this is such a bad story. I like wasn't even attracted to this guy, but there was something about him, and I just was kind of like, I wanted to see if I could. This is called being young, where you just want to see if you have that power that you can get somebody, you know. And I can remember saying, like, he kept on talking about how much he could drink or something like that. I can't remember. And I was like sitting there shooting Coke in this drink, you know, shooting like Coca-Cola in this drinking game. And I'm like, this is so stupid. And I, for some reason, wanted to impress this guy. And I was like, well, I could probably drink 1 beer, right? And so nobody really said no. My friend kind of like side-eyed me, like, are you sure you want to do this? And I was like, yeah, I'll be fine. I'll just drink a couple beers. It'll be okay. The next thing I remembered, I woke up in bed and I was with this guy. Yeah. Anyway, not my proudest moment. And not my only moment like that either. But, see, those stories make me sad because those are like just such empty stories. Like, I look back on that and I'm like, who were you? Like, who were you? You know, that, like, your need to get drunk and your need to see if you could, you know, I don't know, it just makes me sad. It makes me sad when I look back on that, you know. Why did I feel like I needed to be that person? And man, alcohol made me feel like I was something I wasn't. It made me feel 10 feet tall. It made me feel like a supermodel. It made me feel unstoppable. And then the next day I would wake up and I felt like just a piece of crap again, you know? So yeah, I don't miss those days at all. I'll tell you what is weird though, okay? When you talk about cravings and stuff like that, I don't miss that. But one of the things that's really hard for me to this day to watch are movies about desperation, like desperate addiction. Because even when I was using, there was something that was like really attractive to me about like desperation in movies and being like just bottomed out, you know. It just like there was always something to me that was, I don't know, like maybe I related to it or something. And when I watch movies like that today, like I have to be real careful. And I like them when they're movies where there's like a recovery ending to it and that person gets sober or something like that. Because if not, like I have to be real careful. Like there's, not that I think that that's going to trip me up or make me want to go use. You know, honestly, it scares me to say this. I feel like as long as I go to meetings and as long as I'm talking to my sponsor and I'm doing service work and, you know, I am surrounded by a support group and, you know, everybody in my life knows where I'm at with my sobriety and things like that, I think I have a pretty good chance. That being said, I've had a couple friends of mine that have gone back out with double-digit years. One of my friends who went back out at 21 years sober. It terrifies me, right? It terrifies me that I could lose everything that I have and I could go back out there again. But in my mind, mind, like, and maybe it's just because, you know, when I came back into the rooms of recovery, I really, I heard that this lead where this girl shared, well, she was a woman, but she was a girl when she got sober. She got sober at like 15 or something. She said, I can still remember her name. And she said, if you're sitting in the middle of the wagon, it's hard to fall off of it. And I feel like today I'm sitting in the middle of the wagon. There have been many moments in my life where I have, in my recovery, there's been many moments of my life since I got sober that I have not been sitting anywhere near the middle of the wagon. And what that implies is that if you're sitting in the middle of the wagon, if you're introducing yourself to the newcomer, if you're talking to friends, if you have a support network, you're, you know, going to meetings, if you have a sponsor, if you're working the program of recovery, if you, whatever program that is, and you're doing service work and all that kind of stuff, then you're in the middle of the wagon, right? The outside of the wagon is not knowing anybody, being silent, not telling people when you're going through really difficult times, not sharing with people what, that has been one of the most valuable things to me in my life, you know, is in recovery, we call it telling on yourself or living out loud. You know, when you live out loud and you say, this is where I'm at today, I'm not doing okay. See, me keeping silent about that stuff is what's going to get me drinking, because if you go back to what I said at the beginning, what I like is I either want to numb myself or I want to exaggerate myself. And that's what alcohol and drugs did to me. So when I'm going through something, like any other person on the planet, I want to numb myself, right? I don't want to feel that stuff. It hurts. But if I'm honest about that stuff and I work through that pain, then I have no reason to use, right? And what I've realized is, after so much stuff that I've gone through in my life, breakups and, you know, careers ending and, you know, deaths of loved ones, deaths of pets, you know, I've made it through a lot. I've made it through the happy days and the bad days. I made it through all the Tuesdays and the Christmases and the Halloweens and the Wednesdays and the summer days and the winter days. There is no good reason for me to drink or use today, period, end of story. And as long as I remember that, I probably won't, right? I think it's when you start deceiving yourself that you can, and that's where, like, the denial, like when you talk about, you know, denial is not a river in Egypt, that's when the denial sets in, right? That's why it's so important for me to always remember where I came from. You know, I don't want to sit in it. I don't want to talk about it all the time. I don't want to, but, you know, like, I got to remember where I came from. I got to remember those dark days, because if I don't remember, like, how ugly it was back then, I could end up back there. And I am a believer that no matter if it's been 20 days or 20 years or 50 years or 2 years, that where you stopped, you will end up again sooner or later if you pick up again. Like, I am such a believer in that. It's been proven to me by people that I have known that go back out. They say that wherever you stop with what that looked like on your usage and what your life looked like, that when you pick back up, you will eventually, very quickly probably, end up right back to where you were. I have a dear friend of mine that, you know, was hanging out with drug dealers and partying left and right, and flash forward 21 years is sleeping on a drug dealer's couch. I mean, like, this is not a joke. Like, this stuff happens, you know? I don't even think I'd make it out alive the next time. I really don't. I don't think I would make it out alive. And it's just not worth it to me. Oh, this is what I was going to say about the question that I get with, like, the Alex thing. That I think this is important, and I want people to know this about addiction. Like, if I am at, you know, 26 years and 11 months sober, and I'm going to meetings, and I'm working with my sponsor, and I'm doing all this stuff, right? And Alex having a drink is making me crave. What is going on with me that I need to talk to somebody about? Like, that's, at that point, it's not about a drink. There's something so much deeper going on, you know? And that's the thing. If you're in a relationship, or, I mean, you know, they say, we are taught that the desire to use will be lifted from us, right? And I think that they mean the desire to truly use and be wasted and all that kind of stuff. And so if that's the case, sooner or later, they've pulled somebody over here, like, right where I need to turn. If that's the case, then sooner or later, hold on a second. But the desire will be lifted so that sooner or later, I'm not going to feel the same way that I felt, that I was feeling before, that I want to get like wasted, you know, or whatever, or numb all those feelings. And at some point, what's happened that's crazy is that the camera stopped. But at some point, it feels kind of good to, I don't even know if that's what I was saying. I got so distracted by that. But there was like all these cars pulled over, this one little car over there. Anyway, that sooner or later, I don't even know what I was saying with the sooner or later. Okay, what I wanted to say was this, is that if I am craving at this point, if like Alex having a drink makes me really, really want to use, the question is not about the drink. The question is, Peter, what is going on with you inside that is making you want to use? Because I know today that it's not about the alcohol. The alcohol is but a symptom of our use or of our addiction, right? Like, I'm an alcoholic because I'm an alcoholic. The alcohol is the way that it plays out. I'm still an alcoholic when I put the alcohol down. It's how do I deal with the problems and the issues in my life today, right? Like, do I allow them to control me? Do I, you know, whatever. And so it's not about that. And I think that that's really important for people to know. Like, it's why I do believe in going to a 12-step program. It's why I do believe in continuing to go to meetings and having a sponsor, because the people that I know that have really healthy lives and are really happy, that are 40 and 50 years sober, still go to meetings. Some of them 5 and 7 times a week. They still have a sponsor that they work steps with and do inventory on, even at 40 and 50 years sober. It's not like it's ever fixed, right? They're still working on those issues. And so those are the people to me that have paved the way ahead of me. And if that's what they do that makes them happy and healthy, then I need to do the same things, right? So I can understand if I like wasn't going to meetings and I wasn't really working any kind of program, that if I was just sitting at home and Alex was like drinking and I would think, oh God, that drink looks good, you know, which he very rarely just sits around and has a glass of wine. I mean, he does, but not very often. But like, if we were out or whatever, if I'm thinking, oh my God, that drink looks so good, like I really want to drink, I really want to drink. I mean, the first thing I would tell somebody is, have you tried working a 12-step program? Like, maybe go to some meetings, like give it a try, you know? And I know it's not for everybody, but for me, it's like, or go and do something that'll help. I don't know, like for me, it's like, my life was so empty that I was just willing to try anything at that point, you know? And once you took the alcohol and the drugs away, it was like, what do you replace that with? How do you like work through that stuff that like, what was inside, you know, like that's what needs to be worked on. And not everything can be fixed by a 12-step program. I think that that's something that's really important, you know? That there are a lot of issues that you need to go to account. We call those outside issues in recovery, you know, that those are issues that, you know, like I used to get this person that would comment on my videos quite a bit, and they would say, oh, Peter thinks that his sponsor can fix everything. She's not a counselor. I'm like, do you think I'm stupid? Like, obviously I know that, right? Do you think my sponsor hasn't said to me at times, you know, like, this isn't an issue that I can help you with, like, you need to go and talk to your counselor or get outside help by this and things like that? I mean, there are a lot of issues that obviously can't be helped by working a 12-step program. Tons of them, right? And those are called outside issues that you would go and get outside help for. I always thought that was interesting when that person would like leave that comment. I'm like, you really want me to know that? Obviously, I've been sober for a while. I think you probably do know that, you know, like I've even said that with, you know, people that I've worked with and said, you know, you need to probably go get some outside help because this isn't an issue that you can work through in a 12-step program. It always just feels like such kind of like, this is going to sound weird, but like a spiritual, mystical period this month. These 2 months, I guess. I guess I would say November into January. Like the first part of it is the last part of my using, and then the second part of it is the first part of my recovery. Like those 2 months together are like super, super spiritual for me. I don't know. They just make me feel really full of gratitude and love inside, and just, I feel alive in thinking about that. And I always have this image of myself standing outside in like my pajama pants and shoes in treatment at like 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't know, I wish I could like take this feeling that I had in this moment and put it into like an image and just like give it to you guys. Like, this is how I feel about those 2 months that fill me with joy. It's like, I can remember standing out there, it'd be like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I would go into the cafeteria. I'd wake up or something, I couldn't sleep. I'd go into the cafeteria and get a cup of decaf coffee and a styrofoam cup, and I'd be standing outside in this bitter cold while it's snowing, you know, but that snow where you can still see the stars up there, and I'd be standing out there at 2 o'clock in the morning smoking a cigarette in the freezing cold, and I just, for the first time in my life, felt very, very alive. And I was happy because of it, you know? I was happy because I was alive. That's the moment right there that I remember. That means so much to me. So, it is flashing. The battery's flashing. And although I have another battery here, I'm going to end it now. And I'm going to actually go home and try to start rendering this and uploading it tonight, so it'll be ready tomorrow to post. And then I am going to listen to a little bit of my audiobook before I go to bed. So anyway, if nobody else has told you this today, I love you. Thank you guys so much for listening to tonight. I appreciate it. I've been working with Troy and we are coming up with the Cozy Christmas Decorating Contest. And that will probably be up on the 1st or the 2nd or something like that. It won't be for long. It'll be like a week on the Vloggerinos, just so you know. And yeah, I'm really excited about that. So anyway, is that it? I don't know. I think that's it. Yeah, so anyway, if nobody else has told you this today, I love you. And I hope that you guys are having a magically amazing Monday. I hope that you are rested, rejuvenated, relaxed, and repaired. Relaxed, rejuvenated, renewed. I don't know. Repaired. Refreshed for the week ahead. Did I say that already? Anyway, I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye. Love ya.